Hello and welcome back to LB's Garage. What we've got right here is a 1984 Chevy Impala, also known as Vlad the Impala, the channel car. Today we're going to go over a few things that we are planning to do to the vehicle and how I'm going to turn this literal great-grandpa car into a pretty fast drag car. From factory, this beauty came with a 350 Chevy small block. It's got a 700 R4 transmission, so not exactly the peak of performance, but I've got quite a few plans to change that. As you can see there, the purple that I started painting it. I'm not 100% sold on that. Definitely looking at all of my options. The rest of the car isn't painted. This is, I'll go to the other side to show what it looked like before. See if the light will cooperate with me. But yeah, that's the blue that it was whenever I got it. The story on this car is I actually received it as a 16th birthday present. It was a car that my great-grandfather had owned, and he had driven that for quite a few years. After he passed, I believe it went to one of my uncles, his son, and then once he passed, the vehicle was then passed to me. So it's been in my family a really long time. I've owned it now for 16 years. You know, in that time, it hasn't seen the amount of road use that I would like. Definitely looking to change that. Definitely not, intended for the purpose that I'm going to use it. But, you know, who cares? I just think it's going to be hilarious. You know, one of my real goals, my attainable goals for this vehicle would be to hit 150 miles per hour in the quarter mile. And that is something I'm going to do. It's not an optional thing, or it's like, I hope I can. I'm going to make it happen one way or another. And just to be in a situation where I'm driving my grandfather's or great-grandfather's car at 150 miles per hour in just a quarter mile is going to be quite a story. So general plans while we're here at the car. I'm going to go over parts and everything a little bit separately, but while we're at the vehicle, I'll go ahead and talk about a plan on doing probably a Ford 9-inch or Ford 8.8, just kind of depending. The Ford 9-inch tends to be a little more modular, a little easier to service when it comes down to it, but both of those are going to be plenty strong for the horsepower level that I'm going to be putting this car through. It's not going to be 2,000 horsepower or anything of that nature, but probably looking for 1,000 brake horsepower with the setup that I have, hopefully being, on the fast side, high eights, but realistically I want to run probably 9-second class, and I'm kind of considering a couple other classes. I know for a fact I'm not going to be able to do a small tire class. The cars in that class are, it's a super popular class, so those cars tend to be so much faster and probably about 1,000 pounds lighter before weight reduction. As it sits, I haven't started any real modification to the vehicle. In fairness, I've actually only driven it just a couple times in the time that I've had it, in the 16 years. So I think it's definitely due time. And like I mentioned in the channel intro video, it is something that I've been looking forward to doing, and I've just kind of put it off. There's always an excuse out there for why you can't do something, and it's just time that I get out here and did it. I mean, it's definitely not everybody's cup of tea, this vehicle, but I absolutely love this thing, and I think making a real hot rod out of it's going to be so fun, and it's just going to be something I'm excited to do. Let me think. Obviously, wheels and tires are going to be different in race trim, and I'll probably have a couple sets. I plan to run more than likely slicks, bi-splice at the track, and then I'll have some, roll it around town radials. But yeah, let's, from here, go ahead and start talking about the parts individually. All right, Ashley, before we get to the parts, I want to discuss a couple things. Basically, the parts that I don't have for the vehicle as of right now. So, as you can see in here, and it'll actually be one of the first videos that we do, We have the 350 Chevy that is installed. Um, this is actually a replacement crate engine that my uncle had done after the original one had blown. Well, my grandfather had it. But that will be one of the first things we're doing. We'll be pulling this dude out, pulling the transmission out, basically getting it to roller form. I'll have to clean out under here a whole bunch, hopefully repaint, get that looking nice and ready for the rebuilt engine. Yeah, but so basically big things that I don't have right now are that Ford 9-inch or 8.8, whichever. Just haven't got to that part of the purchasing process, since that's one of the last parts I'll actually need for the build. And then obviously drive shaft, I don't have that quite yet. But the thing that actually put this vehicle out of commission after I drove it last is the intake gasket on the rear had failed and had caused a coolant leak that had dripped down onto the starter. And so the symptom I noticed first, because it had been primarily parked in dirt, was the it would start right the first time, and if you tried to restart it after that, it was a real hard start. So that is something that I ended up taking care of, doing that, after work and things like that. But I just never got to the point of finishing it. Realistically, I think all I need to do is hook up a few vacuum lines, get the distributor set back up, and then it honestly would run. The plans for this engine and transmission are actually going to be, I have a buddy named Tucker who has a El Camino. I believe it's a 70s, maybe 60s Camino, but it doesn't have an engine or transmission. And, I'm taking this out, and rather than letting it sit forever, I want to take it and help him get his childhood car running and driving. So that'll be a cool thing to do and a fun process. I'm no good with secrets, so I've actually already told him that. So I have no problem talking about it in the video. All right, but from here, we'll get to the parts. All right, so the first part we're going to discuss is going to be what I feel is the most important part, of any build. It's going to be the engine. And what we've got is a 5.3 liter LS, the pumpkin spice latte of the engine world. You can find these, factory from anything from vans to cars. They're even trucks where they're more commonly found. This is LM7, so this is actually from a truck, Gen 3 LS build. So really, it's kind of a pretty stockish rebuild, stock bottom end. Really, the only thing that is kind of different is I have a sloppy stage 2 cam from Elgin, and then I have a Delphi LS7 lifters. Aside from that, super stock. The front timing cover is ICT billet, and it's got two oil drains for the turbos that I'm going to run on it. That is how we're going to achieve all those horsepower. Factory, it's probably like 295, maybe 300 if I'm lucky. So that's not really going to cut it whenever you're trying to hit 150 miles per hour and high eights in the quarter mile. Yeah, so it's, like I said, super basic, but it'll get the job done. The reason why I like this platform, at least initially for the vehicle, is for anywhere from $300 to $500. I can go out, buy another one of these, swap over the cam and my heads and lifters, and then bam, I'm right back on the road. One thing I plan to set up with the car is actually basically making it to where it is as simple as possible to swap out engines whenever it comes time for that. Realistically, it's not going to be an all-day thing in general, but to have it to where I can actually just pull out an engine, swap in the next, and be ready to go. Because if we're going to be real, the whole time this thing is running, I'm essentially going to be doing everything I can to either snap the crank in half or spit the pistons and rods outside of it. So it's not if I'm going to break it, it's when I'm going to break it. And so trying to future proof that planning, but being able to have an engine, $500, swap over a couple parts, and then actually having the vehicle up, running, and driving in the same day, with the engine management system I'm using is, it's kind of invaluable. Just for the general plans I have with this car. I talked a little bit about it earlier. With running like the 9-second index class, or maybe bracket racing in 9 seconds. But also I'm interested in drag and drives, and that's just yet another thing where the Ford 9-inch kind of makes sense, because basically I could have third members ready to go for highway driving, for quarter mile running, for eighth mile, basically having everything ready to go that I can hot swap even at the track to basically be able to run my best time and kind of make it a Swiss Army knife of a vehicle. I can appreciate everyone that builds true race cars, that are purpose built for specifically that, doing that. That isn't really where my passion sits right now. Where I kind of am is, for me, I do not want a vehicle. It doesn't matter how much horsepower it has. If I can't drive it down the road, take it to car meets, if I want to go grab lunch in it, who wouldn't want to go, grab Taco Bell or something like that with a 1,000 horsepower engine dragging you there? There's just a lot of fun to be had. And out here in rural Oklahoma, you can probably get in all sorts of trouble if you try hard enough. And so, something I'm definitely looking forward to for sure. All right, let's take a second to talk about what flavor of war whistle I went with. I chose these for a very specific reason, and that reason is that one was $192, and that one was $192, so they're cheap as can be. Same with that intake, completely cheap. One thing with these are the max speeding rods, turbos, so they've been tested, they're reliable. With both of them, I should be good at the power level I'm looking for. In fact, it's probably even more turbo than I need by far. So you make your choice, pick out what you want, and sometimes the sort by cheapest is good enough. Same with that intake. A lot of guys say that you lose a lot of power with them. My counter to that is just an exorbitant amount of boost that will constantly be trying to turn that dude into a balloon. So we'll definitely see what we can do, and make sure to document that whenever that does happen, because that's going to be hilarious. All right, and on to the next point of future failure. We have the fuel pump. This is basically the nicest part of this entire build. If there's one place, if you're trying to save money, just don't do it in the fueling system. This dude's capable of pushing or supporting up to 2,000 horsepower. It's pushing a crazy amount of fuel. From what I understand, these are super loud, but I wasn't going to risk. I obviously understand I'm going to be replacing engines frequently in this, but why not do what I can to save myself a little bit of work and a little bit of money? But yeah, it's the MagnaFuel 750. Super nice. You're going to see these on some of the more powerful race cars out there, but in a situation, like I said, I just didn't want to be replacing unnecessary parts constantly, so that's what I went with. All right, and one of the last parts I want to document here is going to be the transmission option that I'm going with. This is a essentially stock rebuild turbo 400 3-speed. Not really built for the power level we're going to. Oh, hold on, sorry, this guy gets scared a little bit. It's okay, buddy. It's okay. Yeah, he's getting worried because he knows the amount of horsepower we're using to try to snap the crank in the LS in half. So he's worried that that's going to cause him to turn into a little grenade as well. So we'll try to get moved on from him quickly. But Turbo 400 3-speed, we're going to do a reverse manual valve body. I've already got my shifter for that. But yeah, pretty basic modern hot rodding stuff with the engine and transmission combo. Obviously, I would have liked to have built the guy a little bit better, but that costs money. Transmissions get expensive quick, and you can find these like a dime a dozen. So Well, I guess after I shut off the camera, he decided that you guys might be able to help him, so he went ahead and graffitied himself. So, yep, he knows what's coming, and so do I, and I just want him to know that there's nothing you guys can do to help. So, yeah. One of the last parts that I haven't mentioned that I actually already have, it's a pretty important one, is going to be our engine management system. So I went with Phytech, fairly cheap option, caught it on sale. So I got a pretty good deal on it. Comes with wideband O2, wiring harness, ECU, and all that. I didn't need transmission control because I'm going to be doing a full manual valve body. But yeah, that one had everything that I needed, out of the box. And I believe it was like $1,200, which is a pretty good deal. So I'm pretty excited. That'll be one of the first things we get installed after all the main parts, to get it running and everything. But thank you guys for taking the time to be here. I'll see you in the next one.